This month marks the anniversary of Nickelodeon establishing the Nicktoons brand. It began with Ren and Stimpy, which premiered on August 11th, 1991. I could have single-minded focused and looked at the few Ren and Stimpy games out there, but I broadened my gaze with the plethora of license-based games. I did this for the love of documenting video game history, and boy, let me tell you, it was a nauseating experience. In this retrospective, I will recount my history with watching Nicktoons as a kid, and my experience with playing these games again for this retrospective, covering 25 years of the stuff. And a lot of my favorite shows didn't have any games. In fact, a lot of the worst shows got a ton of them. You'll see 15, but trust me, there was at least double, if not more. And these are the games I will be discussing. Real Monsters, Barnyard, Danny Phantom, The Ultimate Enemy, El Tigre, The Adventures of Manny Rivera, The Fairly Odd Parents, Enter the Cleft, Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, The Legend of Korra, Nicktoons, Attack of the Toybots, Nicktoons Freeze Frame Frenzy, The Ren and Stimpy Show, Buckaroo, Rocket Power Dream Scheme, Rocko's Modern Life, Spunky's Dangerous Day, Rugrats Castle Caper, the Spongebob SquarePants movie game, and Wild Thornberry's Chimp Chase. Now, Nickelodeon and Nicktoons in turn was my lifeblood growing up. I love this stuff. It was just like the one place that actually had cartoons on a constant level, because this was before Cartoon Network kind of came more widely based in the cable boxes around my area. Before that, it was kind of more like HBO, where it's actually kind of hard to see, and it was a bunch of Hanna-Barbera stuff anyway before they established original programming. I can remember watching Ren and Stimpy, Rocko, Angry Beavers, SpongeBob later on. SpongeBob was probably the very end, the very tail end of me really getting into Nicktoons. I think it started in '96, so I watched it for quite a few years post. I was still fairly young then, but I didn't really get into a lot of other shows because I think it kind of, to me, it lost focus. I dabbled every once in a while with Fairly Odd Parents, but I didn't really like it. I had a lot of friends that did, but I didn't really care for it. Way later on, I kind of liked Danny Phantom. I liked the idea of like a superhero before it was widely available on a lot of different channels, especially now with our media blitz of the Marvel Universe and the terrible, terrible DC movie universe. But I like the idea of someone having like these ghost powers and kind of going around and fighting evil as a ghost kind of thing. It kind of reminded me of Freakazoid. But enough about the cartoons themselves, because I could talk about that all day, and maybe sometime I will get some friends together and talk about maybe some of our favorite stuff from it. But as it was a long time ago, it's kind of really hard to remember every single thing. I just remember watching it as a kid and adoring it to death. I'm trying to track down a lot of this content out there because it's kind of lost to time. You can see some of it streaming online on Netflix or Amazon, but a lot of the older stuff is kind of hard. And the same goes for these games. I kind of pick and chose some of the best, in quotes, to kind of highlight what there was to play based on these properties. And again, there's a lot of stuff that really there wasn't any games for, which was very surprising, especially because there was, well, not so surprising, because SpongeBob was probably the most abundant of all these games. And the movie game was actually made by WayForward, so it looks really nice. It plays decently for a license-based game, but whatever, it's pretty fine. All the other games are just very, very, very poor. The Legend of Korra is pretty okay in terms of a lot of these other games. It was made by Platinum, and of course, if you watched my Platinum video earlier last month, you'd see that they just turned 10, and I kind of talked about that already, but it's an okay game by their standards, by this license placed throughout here. It's way better than it deserves to be. But a lot of these other games are just kind of really cheap cash-ins, a lot of them from THQ. I did enjoy both Nicktoons collaboration things, which actually in the grand scheme of things, in terms of a company taking all their properties together and making like a expanded universe crossover kind of thing, there's a lot of Nicktoons games, and these ones actually play decently, and they're kind of weird, especially the camera game. They look nice, they're kind of like little brawlers, Attack the Toy Bots at least, and the DS version, you know, pretty clean. I'm trying to actually do research for Cartoon Network as well, and they do have quite a few crossover stuff, but there's a lot of other properties that it's been really hard for me to see that, oh, they didn't bother crossing these things over in video games. There's like tons of movies and stuff. Going back to Hanna-Barbera, there's tons of movies I remember growing up, especially a lot of Christmas specials, but not a lot of games. I just like the concept of crossovers, and that's a project I'm working on as well. So now I'm just talking about projects I'm working on, but yeah, I can't really recommend anything in here as like a really hidden gem. Again, Spongebob is okay, Korra is okay, those cross games are fine, but a lot of the early like Super Nintendo games like Real Monsters and Rocco and Ren and Stimpy are just really poor. I couldn't find the one I played a lot as a kid, but there was a Ren and Stimpy game that I rented from a local movie theater. I played time and time again. Even though it was terrible, it was just one of those things where there's only like 12 games to rent from. I guess I'll try this one again, or I'll try Battletoads, or I'll rent Super Mario RPG and, oh look, my save data's erased, or oh look, I rented and my save data gets erased. There was a lot of great RPGs they had there, but the battery just erased everything. But anyway, yeah, I can't believe Nicktoons is 25 this year. Makes me feel super old, even though I wasn't, you know, born right in 91. I was born obviously in 87, but I was at that point where I really was kind of, you know, a 90s kid, as nauseating as it makes me feel because of all these stupid listicles out there. But you know, in my own way, I make listicles as well, but I try not to do, I just hate the term 90s kids, but I'm not going to get into that. So that is my retrospective. Again, I played a lot more than you're seeing here, and I was just so exhausted by the end of it that I did not want to talk about these games or be reminded of them again. But because I put the work in, I decided to put this out anyway and just kind of droll on about my history with Nickelodeon in general, and maybe a couple words here and there with Nicktoons stuff. If you have any curiosities with any of these games that you're seeing right now, go ahead and ask me. I can clarify a bit more on some of this stuff, but you know, to summarize, most of it's not very good at all. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed this very well put together retrospective. Probably one of my best. Just obviously kidding. But thank you all for watching anyway. There's tons of links below and you'll see my ad in a second. But thanks and see you next time. Did you know that was a ReActionExaminer video? If you liked it, you should subscribe to me to keep up with everything that I'm doing. Also, if you have some other interests, like sex for example, check out Tomups, which is a comedy sex podcast thing wherein my best friend and I check out the weird and abnormal and the erotic. And of course, you should support me on Patreon because, hey, I want to make the channel better and I want your help to do so. Plus, if you want to check out my writing, check out Game Jerk, where I have archives and new stuff for all projects, okay? You can find all the stuff and more in the description with the links below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time.